The first step to configuring Fibre Channel in a UCS environment is to enable the unified ports in UCS Manager, and we're going to take a look at how to do that. Next, we'll take a look at each individual Fabric Interconnect model to see how unified ports are supported on each one. So here we are in UCS Manager, and we're going to want to start on the Equipment tab. Now we go down to the Fabric Interconnects. Fabric Interconnect A we'll start with. We have to configure each one individually. And under Actions, we'll see this option to configure unified ports. And we'll click it, and it's going to give us a warning message. And it's saying that, hey, if you configure unified ports, it's going to require a reboot of that module. Now, what's a module? Well, in most cases, that's going to be our entire Fabric Interconnect. So reloading the module equates to the Fabric Interconnect. Now, in the 6248s and the 6296s, if you happen to have those models, those supported an expansion module, and if we configure unified ports on that module, then we'd only have to reload the module, which is great. But in most cases, if we're configuring unified ports outside of that specific module, it's going to reload the entire Fabric Interconnect. So we need to acknowledge that and say yes. And it's not going to reload yet. It's just giving us the warning, fair warning, right? Giving it to us in advance. And what we get now is this slider. So we can move this slider up and down, and we can see that we can configure them all in purple, which is Fibre Channel, or all in blue, which is Ethernet, or something in between. Now, the granularity does depend on the model of Fabric Interconnect. So in some models, we can configure just 2 of these at a time. With this model, we can only go in blocks of, 6, and then 6, and then the last 4 gets covered at the end. So, in most cases, we only need 2, maybe 4. So if we go with 6 in this case, I think we'll be fine. We hit OK, and again, another reminder, it's going to cause an immediate reboot of the Fabric Interconnect, and we say, OK, that's fine. And then the next thing we want to do is come over to Fabric Interconnect B and do the same thing. But keep in mind, it's going to reload the Fabric Interconnect, and we do not want to reload both at once. If so, we've dropped the entire data plane. All of our servers are disconnected. So let's keep this one online for now. We'll say no. And once Fabric Interconnect A comes back online, then we'll configure unified ports for Fabric Interconnect B. Such models of Fabric Interconnect support unified ports. Well, for that, let's take a look at Cisco's website. And we can see here that we've got 3 different series of Fabric Interconnects. The 6200s are kind of on their way out the door, but there's a lot of them out there. So you might have these in your environment. Now, if you do, here's the good news. All of these interfaces support unified ports. Now, there's a dividing line here. This is the module that we referred to earlier. So there's 16 here and 32 here. And there is a larger model of 6200 if you have the 2 rack unit version. No matter what, we can support unified ports on all of these, more than enough. Now, the 6300s, slightly different story in that we do have a model with 16 unified ports. That's the 6332-16UP, so we can tell there's 16 unified ports on this model. But we'll notice that there is another model, there's the 6332 on its own, and this is all 40 gig interfaces. Now, Fibre Channel SFPs, they don't fit into there, and so we know that there are no 40 gig interfaces that we can configure as a unified port. So if we need native Fibre Channel, we have to go with the second model. If you're designing this out, or you're in the process of kind of figuring out what we need to purchase for our environment, take that into account when we're taking a look at that. Now, the 6454 is the latest and greatest Cisco model, and this supports 8 unified ports. It's not very clearly spelled out, but it's the first 8 interfaces that support unified ports on this Fabric Interconnect. Now, one quick note on this also, the last 4 interfaces, by the way, these are the only ones that support 1 gig. So just be a little bit careful when speccing out the 6454. It's a great Fabric Interconnect, and it's probably the one that most our environments need, but just be aware of the limitations when you're designing this for your own infrastructure. We configure unified ports on the Equipment tab in UCS Manager, and we use that slider to determine how many Fibre Channel ports we want. Now, just keep in mind that the granularity is dependent on the Fabric Interconnect model, and we want to be careful when we're choosing a Fabric Interconnect for our environment. We want to make sure that we pick the right model for the right needs. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.